I think, especially after this morning's excellent sessions, many of us feel that it's both the best of times and the worst of times in biomedicine. It's the best of times because we're really in a golden age of basic research, disease research, translational medicine, drug discovery that's enabling us to tackle so many poorly treated diseases and help patients, as was beautifully illustrated this morning. It's also the worst of times because of many obstacles and challenges. Many aired this morning, and one of which, of course, is the tightening of funding that's disproportionately affecting young scientists who are at early stages of their careers when they're most vulnerable. In this context, the establishment of the Pershing Square Sohn Prize for Young Investigators in Cancer Research has been a truly wonderful development. It provides funds for young scientists who have started an independent lab between 2 and 8 years out in the New York area, and that provides them with the freedom to take risks and to pursue their boldest research. It's also a very visionary prize. It recognizes the importance of increasing the interactions between the academic and the drug discovery sectors, and so a requirement of the prize is that the young investigators are paired with a buddy or a mentor in the private sector, thereby establishing a dialogue between the two sectors. The prize was launched at this very event a year ago with the mayor in presence, and it gives me great pleasure as a member of the jury of both the Galien Awards and the Pershing Square Sohn Prize Advisory Board to chair this panel. We'll discuss the next generation of advances in cancer research through the exciting work of the young scientists on the panel, and we're particularly thrilled that Dr. Tara Narula is able to join us today and moderate this wonderful panel. In addition to being a medical contributor to CBS's News Morning program, Dr. Narula's background makes her a perfect fit to lead today's discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mark, for the wonderful introduction. Through the work of the Pershing Sohn Prize winners who are joining us today, we will discuss through concrete examples what the landscape in cancer research looks like for young investigators. We have Dr. Emily Bernstein, prize winner and associate professor of oncological sciences and dermatology at the Icahm School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. Her lab focuses on epigenetic regulation of gene expression in melanoma. Dr. Adolfo Ferrando, prize winner and associate professor of Pediatrics and Pathology, Institute for Cancer Genetics, Columbia University Medical Center. His lab analyzes the genetics of human leukemia to decipher fundamental mechanisms that can be exploited for the development of new therapies. And Dr. Sihong Wang, prize winner and associate professor of biomedical engineering, City University of New York City College. Her lab is working on engineering a 3D human tumor model to search for the most effective drugs. And finally, Dr. Olivia Tournay Flatto, Executive Director of the Pershing Square Sohn Cancer Research Alliance. She has led the creation and implementation of the Alliance's mission. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. So because of our limited time, I'm going to be giving some direct questions to each of our panel members, and then we'll open it up to the audience for a question-and-answer session. So firstly, Olivia, I want to start with you. This is really an incredible opportunity for many scientists and researchers here in New York. What was the genesis for the idea, and what are the characteristics you look for through the selection process? And is there any advice that you would give to cancer researchers moving to New York City to pursue their research?
So as you all know, there's a shortage of funding for young scientists and for academic research. We have now a landscape where a scientist will get his first, do you hear me? Where a scientist will get his first R1 at an average age of 42 years old. And some of their best work is done prior to that. We have decided to partner the Pershing Square Foundation and the Sohn Conference Foundation, decided to partner together to create this prize to try to fill a gap. We are interested in funding the future leaders of cancer research, and not only to give them funding, as Marc mentioned, but to help them to partner and enter in a dialogue with mentors in the pharmaceutical industry. We have incredible resources in New York. We have incredible resources with the business community and the philanthropy community. And the idea is to actually extend the resources we have to our prize winners. We have selected them because they are innovative, they think out of the box, they want to take risk, and we don't want to fund incremental research. We also want to make sure that they are going to connect with the environment that is available to them in New York. They have been selected actually by a panel of remarkable members, prize advisory board. Some of them are in the room: Marc Tessier-Lavigne, Laurie Glimsher, Jim Rothman, and most of the business community, Pablo Legorreta and others, and Mike Dolstern also. And I think that one of the advice I would give to any scientific researcher coming to New York and working on cancer is actually to take advantage of in the academia, in the business community, and philanthropy community.
Emily, let me ask you, while pharma and academia are finally beginning to collaborate more and more, it's still really a new frontier and challenging in many ways, given that the two sectors reward in vastly different ways. So can you speak to how this prize is really helping to bridge these two worlds?
Well, as you mentioned, the reward between the academia and the pharmaceutical industry is very different. And in our field, we are rewarded by publishing. And in order to have sort of a high impact publication, you need to make discoveries. And we can't do that if we don't have the funding resources. And so this prize has really been, we're just so grateful for it. It has given us the opportunity to take risks. Our lab is studying the epigenetics of melanoma, which is a largely genetically driven disease, but we know very little. And in order to understand that, we need people to believe in us. And so this prize has really given us that opportunity. Now, what it's also done is to connect us with pharmaceutical mentors, and this is a really exciting aspect of the prize and something that I think will help us to translate our findings with the help of the pharmaceutical industry. And so while we might make some of the basic mechanistic discoveries, we don't necessarily have the links to translate, whether it be drug discovery or technologies that we might not have in the laboratory. And so I think as we move forward, we'll need to break down some of the barriers in talking to one another and sort of open the floor for a free flow of information between academia and pharmaceuticals. And I'm very excited about that opportunity.
So building on that, Adolfo, how would we maximize the links between New York City's business and academic communities to create the best environment possible for research? And what do you think makes the best ingredient for a successful collaboration?
I think that all the ingredients for a more dynamic, more fruitful, and more successful interaction between academia, business, and industry in New York are already here. We already have like outstanding science, working on leukemia. New York is right now the place to be. Science, basic research science in leukemia is second to none in New York City. And we have outstanding pharma and a fast-growing and exciting biotech sector in the city. I think that we need is to create bridges that will allow us to have a more dynamic interaction so that we can actually get to know each other better. I think it also takes a change in perspective on the way that we interact. We want pharma to look at academia more like a platform where to develop clinical trials. We want pharma to look at us as a source for ideas and innovation and human capital. And the same way, I think that in the academic side, we need to look at pharma as something more than just a factory of producing drugs, but also as a place where big science happens, where there is an outstanding infrastructure that would allow us to do projects that are beyond what it's sometimes called like toy science, and actually take the biggest risks and the biggest challenge. And also as a unique opportunity for funding our research. I think that if we actually can pitch on what pharma wants, and what pharma wants is to address fundamental challenges in human health, which is also what we want. We should be able to actually, attract capital that is essential for the development of our research.
Thank you. Sihong, let me ask you about being in New York City as a biomedical engineer. How have you been able to leverage New York City's geographic advantage to promote and accelerate your pioneering research?
Okay, so I guess I'm a little bit different from other people because I'm an engineer, but in my opinion, for any biomedical engineers to be able to produce any clinical useful products, we need a team. The team has to be including biologists, but has to be open-minded biologists, and then research-oriented physicians, not just the physicians, but research-oriented physicians. And then the last compound in this team has to be very smart, but rich business people. So in my mind, or in anybody's mind, I would think New York City is the first place I can think of, right? So I want to use my case as example. We have been collaborating with cancer biologists and physicians in Sloan Kettering for many years, actually. So it's because of their support and because of this collaboration, we've been able to work on this creation of 3D human tumor models, really trying to improve cancer patients' treatment outcome, and then actually the drug treatment prediction accuracy of the drug treatment. I would say, again, use my case as an example. I've been very lucky and excited for the current New York City environment because there's a wave to promote interactions or connections between like academic research labs and the business people as well as industry. So one example, again, for all of us, we've been able to, through this Pershing Square Fund, we've been able to connect with a big pharma industry. And I just want to mention other opportunities in New York City. We've been able to get a lot of business mentors on our startup, actually, like eLab, New York City. I'm sure some of you know that. And also regional ICROP program, as well as NSF ICROP program, and NYC Tech Connect. And we've been able to get a lot of help through NYC SBR Impact, actually, to work on those translational grant, actually. So I've been very hopeful, so in the near future, so everybody coming together, we can really put a device on market to help improve patients' treatment outcome.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists for your insightful discussion. And I guess I'd just like to end at this point then by thanking everybody, for thanking our audience, our panelists, and congratulating again our prize winners. And I want to mention that the Pershing Square Sohn Cancer Research Alliance has opened its prize applications for this year. You can log on to www.psscra.org, and the deadline is November 12th, 2014. Thank you again to everybody.